My followers know that I used to
Stream Elements. Alien Exhausted is now live. Streaming art. Alien want to learn fry cream. Be prepared for humiliation LOL.
I spelled it wrong. Oh my god. Right. Can I change it? No. Rice. I don't know if that helps. We'll see. Either way, I used to sing / scream along with songs when I have my kitchen sessions. And I have come up with this idea to learn proper fry scream. And so I have actually been watching some videos, and some of them is fun to watch. Actually, it's like very entertaining, and the thing is, they all can sing. They already have a proper sing education, or what it's called. But I'm gonna to take it a little further. I have no way taking any sing classes or courses. I can't sing. You heard that when I have my kitchen sessions. But I wanna try anyway. So hopefully one day I can scream properly when I sing along with my fad songs. Okay, so here is first video that I thought was pretty easy to follow. So I don't know. Let's just start. And oh my god, I'm nervous. I am aware that if people ever found my VOD later, or see this, I'm aware that people gonna laugh at me. That's just the simple fact. So I'm just going to give that for free. So I mean, I have a laugh, you have a laugh. Just start, okay? I'm gonna wait. Okay, there.
Hey, it's David here. In this video, I'm gonna show you one method of how to unlock your fry scream. So first, we need to understand what exactly is a fry scream. Well, there are two components to it. First, your vocal cords need to be closed with the proper amount of tension to the point where when you pass air through it, it makes a sputtering effect, like this. In addition, you're projecting that air that passes through your vocal cords into the back, behind your soft palate, and into your nasal tissues. So before I dive into exactly how to create a fry scream, I want to go over the #1 biggest misconception about fry screams. The most common misconception is that vocal fry is the basis of fry screams.
But that's not true.
Yes, when you do this, your vocal cords are closed, however, they don't have enough tension. Your vocal cords are acting more like this instead of the correct way, which is like this. And since a lot of people don't know this distinction, this leads to a lot of people taking the vocal fry sound and they're trying to make that louder. Instead, aim to create fry distortion, which sounds like this. Then make that louder, and then you'll have a fry scream. This is my fry scream! So how exactly do you find fry distortion and then turn it into a fry scream? Well, let's dive straight into it. How to fry scream! Okay, so first, we need to figure out what it means to close our vocal cords. Now first, I want you to hold your breath like this. Now, did you feel that muscle or hole in your throat close? That means that your vocal cords are in the closed position. Now, imagine that a little Oompa Loompa man punches you in the stomach while you're holding your breath. So if you hear a gargling noise that sounds wet, and if you feel some vibrations on your soft palate, then you're doing it correctly. From there, practice and try and grow that gurgly sound and make that louder. With practice, you'll build your compression strength and you'll make it louder and louder. And of course, you want to be using your diaphragm to push your sound out. And by the way, the easiest way to tell if you're using your diaphragm is that when you breathe in, your stomach goes out and your rib cage expands. And when you exhale, your stomach goes back in. So easy, right? Well, yes, but no. Here's the kicker. Every single person has a different relationship with their body. And as a result, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to learning fry screams. I just showed you one of the many different ways to get into a fry scream. Next, there's this whole emotional journey that you'll likely need to go through in order to make it work. Chances are, you're not gonna get it on your first try. But here's the secret. That's just part of the process.
Yes,
I wanted to
know.
give up so many times while learning this. And in fact, I have so much footage of myself sounding constipated and making my voice hurt that it's unbelievable. You're gonna practice and fail and things aren't gonna click right away. And you're gonna doubt whether or not you're capable of pulling it off. But that's completely normal. You need to trust in the process and put in the work, because when you finally do break through and pull off that first delicious, juicy fry scream, not only will you have unlocked your fry scream, you'll realize that you're more capable than you think. And that is a powerful fucking feeling. So give this tutorial a shot and let me know what you think. If you found this valuable and want to learn more, then consider signing up for my free screaming crash course that features over an hour's worth of material. I'll show you my all-time favorite screaming warm-up, as well as 3 techniques that will prevent pain and damage. I'll also give you a deeper explanation of how to create fry screams and false chord screams. So click the link in the description to sign up and I'll see you inside. Peace.
Huh? I have actually clicked up some.
In this video, I'm gonna teach you how to scream like Chester Bennington. First off, many people wonder whether or not Chester is using either a fry scream or a false chord scream. And the answer is that he uses fry screams. One way you can tell is because he can hold out his screams for 17 seconds, which can really only be done using fry screams. With false chord screams, your vocal cords are held open, so you'll lose air quickly and not be able to hold out screams for very long. But with fry screams, your vocal cords are closed, letting out a small stream of air.
Yes. Huh? What?
techniques in addition to the other 11 that I showed you in my previous screaming video. If you have not watched my previous video, then I highly encourage you to go back and watch that video, because some of the techniques that I'm going to show you today rely...
So which is it? My music and social media is all linked here. If you're interested, thank you for it. But what? Maybe.
So this is just through my camera, okay? This is raw camera audio. Why should you watch now? And I'm in a touring band called Back It Up, and tutorial. This is obviously an intro. We're gonna keep that. First is what I like to call, and when you put some like mouth shapes and articulators and people are like, whoa, I can scream. No, you can't. That sounds bad. If you did an actual fry scream, it would sound like... You put those same filters and same articulators over it, and it sounds better now because it's an actual fry scream. So that's what we're going to talk about, vocal stress. So avoid those three things, and now it sounds good. You don't need tons and tons of vocal layers to throw some harm. So let's start off with just a crash course on vocal safety. Don't overproject, that's being too loud. Don't overcompress, that's squeezing too much. And don't overuse your voice. That one's kind of self-explanatory. The human voice can only handle about 4 hours of vocal use before it starts to get tired out. You want to be able to practice this every day? I wouldn't go more than 30 minutes. That's all you need. Your voice does get tired, especially when you do vocals right when you wake up. Your voice is tired. Your voice. So again, don't overdo it. I could talk about. Moving on. Next thing we're going to talk about is breath support. Before we even start getting you to make the noise, you have to have good breath support. The breath support's like one of the cornerstones of being a good vocalist. Do not scream from here. This whole cavity just starts to concave. That's not good breath support. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to take your tongue and you're going to stick it behind your top teeth like this. Like you're saying like T or S. T, S, T, S.
T.
And you're going to hold that.
T.
Like T-S-S-S-S. You're only letting a little bit of air out. So what happens? Well, watch my stomach. It also happens when you laugh. It also happens when you cough. That's what people are talking about when they say to use your diaphragm. So what you're going to do is just practice going. Every time you push, it should come from here. If it's not, you're doing it wrong. And once you're comfortable doing that, you're going to start doing it with your voice. So instead of going, you're going to go, ha, 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 hey, ho, ho, ha. It's that easy. That's your breath support. Next thing we're going to talk about is how to make that sound, and I'm also going to talk about how to make sure you're doing it right. So to make the proper fry sound, there's a couple different ways. I'm going to just give you a few quick ones that come off the top of my head. The first one is if you're in your chest voice, or you're doing like a speaking voice or a shouting voice, and you're going, hey! Your vocal cords, they connect. The fry position, they need to open up just a little bit. Not all the way, but they need to open up just a little bit. Hey! If we continue to release from there, hey! You go into your head voice and you would sound like this. With that being said, you could also reverse it. So if you start in your head voice, hey, just close a little bit more. Hey, and if you continue to close, now we're in your chest voice. So the actual fry scream is going to exist in this weird specific area in between your chest voice and your head voice. Another method is one that's very popular, but people do it wrong. Go down to your fry register. So if you go, hey, and you go way down here, that's your fry register. You can't scream from your fry register, but you can use that to train yourself to get the vocal fry needed to create the fry scream. So if you're going, and then you add some falsetto to that, Now you have this sound. And this takes a few extra steps, but once you have this sound, then you're gonna push air. Remember the breath support thing we were talking about? You're gonna do that. You're gonna go like, and the crowd goes wild. Or like if you're like a fire-breathing dragon, or like if you're trying to fog up a window. That's what we're going for. And no, this is not the same as whisper screaming. Whisper screaming is fake fry. Whisper screaming is upper constriction. Whisper screaming is, yeah. We don't want that. We're gonna take, la, and we're just gonna shove air into it. Literally, your vocal cords are like this, okay? They're not open, they're not closed. They're in this weird semi-open, semi-closed position. You're gonna lock them in place there, and you're gonna just shoot air through that. And what happens? If you get really good at it, you should be able to hold this for like 30 to 40 seconds. If you're a beginner, maybe 20 to 30 seconds. You can hold fry screams for a very long time. Fry screams are loud. Do not let people trick you. Some people will be like, well, no, fry screams, they're pretty quiet, man. They're not. They're insanely loud. They can go over 112 decibels. For those of you who don't know, 112 decibels is roughly the sound of a motorcycle. This is a decibel meter. It'll show you how loud I'm being. It's a loud fucking sound. Some people be like, whoa, that's power fry. No, that's proper fry. That is a fry scream. Anything else is wrong. If those methods aren't working for you, another thing you can do to trigger this fry sound is to say the word yeah. But imagine you just woke up, so say it kind of lazy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There it is. It should have a tone. You should be able to sing with it. Such a calling could mean my end. Trust and certainty. Take a note, hey, and slowly transition that note into the fry scream. Hey.
Oh, I'm stuck.
Yeah, cut to it.
And then try going backwards. You should be able to sing with it. Such a calling could mean my end. Trust and certainty. That's a fry scream. It's not. Why do we want to be able to sing with our distortion? Because that's how we're going to make the screams even higher or even lower. So for example, if we just take this neutral mid, we kind of do like a Elmo voice, like Elmo knows who Elmo loves. What we're doing is we're kind of opening the soft palate a little bit. If Elmo's not doing it for you, you could think of like Girl. Or you could also think of like Meatwad from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Ohana means family. Family means no one gets left behind. Opening up your soft palate, which is that like area, if you trace the roof of your mouth back beyond the uvula, which is that dangly thing. Learn that from the internet. So this area right here, this is called your nasopharynx. That is where the high screams sound the best. So if we take and we just go up there, smile really, really wide. Smile with your teeth. And then raise the back of your tongue to further force the sound up into this nasopharynx area.
Do this a little bit again.
You're only letting a little bit of air out. So what happens? Well, watch my stomach. It also happens when you laugh. It also happens when you cough. That's what people are talking about when they say to use your diaphragm. So what you're going to do is just practice going. Every time you push, it should come from here. If it's not, you're doing it wrong. And once you're comfortable doing that, you're going to start doing it with your voice. So instead of going, you're going to go, ha, 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 hey, ho, hoo, ha. It's that easy. That's your breath support. Next thing we're going to talk about is how to make that sound, and I'm also going to talk about how to make sure you're doing it right. So to make the proper fry sound, there's a couple different ways. I'm going to just give you a few quick ones that come off the top of my head. The first one is if you're in your chest voice, or you're doing like a speaking voice or a shouting voice, and you're going, hey! Your vocal cords, they connect. The fry position, they need to open up just a little bit. Not all the way, but they need to open up just a little bit. Hey! If we continued to release from there, hey, you'd go into your head voice and you would sound like this. With that being said, you could also reverse it. So if you start in your head voice, hey, just close a little bit more. Hey, and if you continue to close, now we're in your chest voice. So the actual fry scream is going to exist in this weird specific area in between your chest voice and your head voice. Another method is one that's very popular, but people do it wrong. Go down to your fry register. So if you go, hey, way down here. That's your fry register. You can't scream from your fry register, but you can use that to train yourself to get the vocal fry needed to create the fry scream. So if you're going, and then you add some falsetto to that, now you have this sound. And this takes a few extra steps, but once you have this sound, then you're gonna push air. Remember the breath support thing we were talking about? You're gonna do that. You're gonna go, like, and the crowd goes wild. Or like if you're like a fire-breathing dragon, or like if you're trying to fog up a window. That's what we're going for. And no, this is not the same as whisper screaming. Whisper screaming is fake fry. Whisper screaming is upper constriction. Whisper screaming is, yeah. We don't want that. We're gonna take, and we're just gonna shove air into it. Literally, your vocal cords are like this, okay? They're not open, they're not closed, they're in this weird semi-open, semi-closed position. You're gonna lock them in place there, and you're gonna just shoot air through that. And what happens? If you get really good at it, you should be able to hold this for like 30 to 40 seconds. If you're a beginner, maybe 20 to 30 seconds. You can hold fry screams for a very long time. Fry screams are loud. Do not let people trick you. Some people will be like, well, no, fry screams, they're pretty quiet, man. They're not. They're insanely loud. They can go over 112 decibels. For those of you who don't know, 112 decibels is roughly the sound of a motorcycle.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am here with Chris Lipe, and there is no measure of pain. Nothing can stand in my way. I know there are tons and tons of videos online about how to scream, but this one is about how I learned how to do it, and hopefully it resonates with you.
And it's super simple, right?
It is.
If you can make this super simple sound and figure out tones and timbres.
Yeah, I like to go based on feel, and I'm not really about all these technical terms that can often overwhelm people. I'm kind of here to give you some simplicity and sort of layman's terms on how to do it and go based on feeling, and hopefully that will give you the key to unlock how your voice wants to do it.
And if you want to continue on in this feel-based approach and you resonate with the way Lauren works, click the link below and join her free warm-ups course, and you'll be able to internalize how to get your voice in shape to better approach what we're going to show you in this video. All right, what's the silly sound?
It's weird, right? I mean, we've all heard it from Sam Carter,
right,
and a bunch of other metal bands, and it's like, what is this sound?
See, when you do that, there's this obvious unpacking that we need. Like, I can't just make that sound.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's other things I have to do and know what to feel in order to get to where you're doing. So dial it back.
We have to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, so where would you start? Bleh, bleh. Just making the sound however you know how to make it?
Totally. And I think the whole point of this is every person on this planet has a different voice. So it's all about how do you find the way.
So sounds this, and as I'm doing, if something doesn't feel quite right, doesn't feel good, it doesn't mean don't do it. Be careful.
Yeah.
Also be careful that you don't do, oh, that doesn't feel quite right, but I'm going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing just like that. Mm-hmm. We want to constantly be squaring how we feel with the sounds that we're making. All right, so dial back bleh to a simple thing that anybody can do in their speech voice.
I think we can try to gag.
Okay.
And I know that sounds very silly and foolish, and I don't want you to gag for real, but the whole point of this is to take the brunt off of your true vocal folds, because what we're trying to do is create something called an overtone. We're using our voice and our vocal cords to sort of send the air, but that's not what's actually going to create the distorted sound that is a scream.
The air is going to pass through, and it might be engaged a little bit as we're dialing this stuff in, but that's not the point. The point is to grab the part above the vocal cords. Okay, so gag.
And it's okay to cough. I think
Yeah.
what's happening is you're feeling a sensation that you aren't comfortable with right now, so that's okay. But the whole point is you're feeling the back of your throat and almost your tongue curl up.
Yeah, that sense of the tongue, I think, is really helping me place that sensation. And you can, I start with my primary chords, right? Right, that's my primary
Yes.
chords. And then I'm adding this element of compression, like holding back a little bit of air. And I'm actually trying to think about, like, elongating initially. And then bringing it.
Yeah, it's the that's where we're gonna live.
As long as I make sure and follow the sensation higher.
Yes.
And get it out of the way of, like, I don't want to be like old man.
No, we're not trying to close our throat like old man.
Yeah.
We want that space to be open, but at the same time, I like to use visuals because sometimes that helps.
Yeah.
Like, you visualize your throat. If this is your tongue, we're not necessarily trying to create the space like that. If this is kind of the back of our throat, we kind of want to lift it up, and our tongue's kind of gonna want to create this little arch.
So kind of like that, right? Like that's where you want to end, or maybe.
Yeah, and you can stick out your tongue. There's no problem.
That
And-
getting closer?
A little bit, and
Yeah.
you notice ours are gonna sound different,
Sure.
but it's how we feel. Like, how are you feeling with that?
That feels pretty good. It's just not as tight or dialed in, obviously, as what you're doing. I tend to approach my screaming from a much more like broken up primary voice, and getting my false chords engaged that way. And so this is still foreign to me, but I understand the motion of it, and I feel like the more I play with it, the more that I'm going to be able to find that balance of creating the right overtones and the right kind of engagement. The key is keeping it placed high so that you can play with it and it doesn't compete with or start to feel like it's dinging or overworking your
Resonate with you, same sort of.
or
It's the same.
with the. So my voice, I'm not getting my voice out of there. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I can. That's a great way to engage my grit. Yeah, yeah. I can do that all day long.
Exactly.
It's removing the
pitch.
the pitch that's still a challenge for me.
And maybe that'll be a way for you to work that teeter-totter.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's going to help you find your rasp or grit.
Yeah.
And then you play in that area of your throat, get familiar with that sensation, and then take it a little bit further.
And if you want to continue to go further with Lauren's approach, figure out these different balances and have her walk you through how to warm up properly to do this stuff, click the link below and join the free warm-ups course.
It's called How to Awaken Your Inner Monster.
We'll see you there.
It's the same. Oh.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Hey, my name's David, and I helped countless people all over the world safely unlock their fry and false chord screams. In this video, I want to discuss the most common mistakes I see people run into when
How Lorna Shores learned to scream.
If you have the luxury of being able to scream in the shower without anybody yelling at you for screaming in the shower, you should. That's where you go to learn.
It's Joe DeVita from Loudwire, and joining me today, here to school you on how he learned to scream, it's Will Ramos from Lorna Shore. Take us all the way back to the very, very beginning. What was the band or the vocalist or the song?
Up and so I rock. So I've been jamming that for a while, but I remember way too heavy. Showered, I'm like, all right, it's time to jam. I'd put on the freaking iHome and I would blast it at like max volume, just scream. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I didn't know at the time, but singing in the shower, obviously you have better acoustics. But at the time I was just doing whatever. But at some point I figured it out, and I was screaming in front of my friend, and he was like, dude, you're not that bad, dude. And I just I kind of got my guitar and just like put it to the side and figure it out.
A lot of...
That's where fortunately the bathroom was on a completely... Oh, yes, I'm fine.
Was she pursued
in my family? You know what I mean? Obviously,
did it sound like
$200 like piece of crap? And I remember setting up like, all right, I'm gonna make it really nice.
I
cover.
found
How do I make this really nice?
Where
I got
do I have
bed sheet and I hung it from the ceiling behind me. It was the wrinkliest bed sheet I could have found in like the world. And sometimes it comes up in my time hop, and I'm like, this is the worst video I may have ever put out.
Were you struggling to make any sounds, like the highs, the lows? How were you working with the range, and what gave you trouble? Did your throat hurt when you were doing this at first?
All the time, dude. It was just like, so I was always better at my lows and my mids and all of that. And then
how do I get?
I was like, I want to figure out how to do highs, but I didn't know how to do highs. Every time it felt like freaking razor blades in my throat. And I was just like, I don't know, maybe
how did
stage ever. People
stage, I just
draining.
Any of them that kind of tripped you up in particular?
I'm not gonna lie, enunciating was the only thing that I was good at when I first realized it was because I don't know, like let's say if you try not to
made
drink
easy.
coffee right
Sing
before
screams
I
made.
would always drink tea.
Hey, Chris Lipe here with how to get intense paint peel. Funny, I've been doing this technique for a while, but in my recent work with Will Ramos, he's been guiding me through how to growl pitchless screams, sigh into things. By looking again at sighing, that actually helps this pitch screaming idea as well. So we're going to break down this sing-scream approach into 3 steps. And before you do anything else, make sure you're properly warmed up. Will has helped me a lot with this as well. Click the link below. Enjoy Will's free warm-up.
Where is that? Free here. Okay. Join for free. View all products. I have been here.
Dun dun dun. All right. On to the next one then. Wow. Wow.
That's such sweet phonation.
Exactly how you warm up for harsh vocals. What makes it so that you can get into shows, get into recording sessions, and be confident that you're going to be able to make the sounds you want to make for a long time without messing things up.
Well, there are so many, but the first one for me...
Doing a little lip trill.
Because that makes it so that adds a little compression to the voice automatically. Sure. So whereas that constriction, you're already kind of halfway doing it with your lips by doing the... So what I would do is I would go from my chest voice, I guess, is like... And then I'll try and go to the higher, which is more head voice.
Okay.
and then just transitioning between the two of them, which could take a little bit of practice for some people. But just like doing that helps warm up when you're going up and down between highs and lows and just getting more comfortable doing all those things. So I'll go.
And with a proper...
And I'll do that a couple times, just transitioning between the two of them. Or if you're having trouble doing that, just do your head voice and just do your chest voice. But then eventually learn how to do both of them and then just put them together so you get the full range. 'Cause at the end of the day, when you're doing vocals, you want to be very comfortable with what you're doing. And so the more comfortable you are, the better a vocalist you'll be.
So you start with sirens, with lip roll sirens, basically.
Yes.
And you start from low, and you go up high, and you come back down.
I think it's fantastic to start with that because it doesn't involve any screaming.
Right, and you're just normal vocalization.
Normal vocalization, and just how people have a misconception that screaming is not the same as singing. It is, and a lot of singers will do this before they get into actual singing.
Yeah.
And so doing this just gets you more comfortable and warms you up a little bit. And if you think for 1 second that singing warm-ups don't help, you're wrong, because it will help you.
Yeah, one of the most recommended warm-ups for a singer that's doing clean singing to start with is going to be some sort of SOVT exercise, essentially.
A lot of drills. So
just a little bit. This way, the only thing that's actually...
Yeah, the tightness here helps.
It's the tightness here, and that just helps. I don't know if that's right, but that feels right, describing it to you guys right now.
Yeah, and a way that if you are having troubles discovering that on your own, you can actually manufacture it by putting a finger on each side. So right, like on the sides of the mouth here. And don't pull out, you'll push in just a little bit, like So anyone that doesn't know where to engage on the sides, they do that with the fingers and then slowly learn how to sustain that.
Slowly you start to...
I never thought about that one.
Yeah.
I just always knew how to just, do it. I never thought about fingering it.
Getting these muscles and slowly figuring out that direction of how you're supposed to hold your lower muscles here. That's cool.
With mine, I actually think I'm pinching them in a little bit more rather than up. But for you, maybe you need a little more engagement here to sustain it. You know, every face is different.
Sure. All the big lip skin. Yeah. So that's the first step.
Yes.
Lip trills, lip rolls.
Lip trills are important.
What's the next one?
So I like to start engaging the diaphragm, or what you would consider to be the diaphragm or the hoo-ha or poop muscle or whatever you decide to call it. Everybody has their own different word for it. But a lot of people have trouble trying to figure out where that even is in the first place. And so for me, I like to get a straw, shing, and just pretend I'm about to shoot a spitball across the room as fast as I possibly can.
So you put your tongue in the thing and...
And by doing that, you get you're focusing on what's going on over here.
Sure.
And that's that muscle, that pushing of the air, it should be coming from your hoo-ha. Or that's what I like to call it.
Yeah, as low as possible, right?
Yes, and it seems so silly. Obviously, don't pass out from doing this because there's no there's a little constriction, but you're also trying to just get it out there. But for people who have no idea how to feel that hoo-ha, I always say to just do this for 30 seconds. Obviously, don't pass out, but by the time you do 30 seconds, you're going to feel a lot of tightness going on in your abdomen.
You're waking
and for somebody who has no idea what that feels like, you will 100% feel it, assuming you're doing it right and you're focusing on the right part of your tummy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I just pretend that I'm literally just trying to shoot out as much air as I can through this little thing in short bursts, just like... And also doing this gets you better with air control, so that you're not exhaling too much air and making yourself pass out, but also gets you in the rhythm of when you're doing fast vocals. If you're doing something, you just need to take a quick breath of air.
Yeah,
it gets you a little bit more warmed up for that. So, and if you listen to my music, there's a lot of just vocal.
Well, you defaulted into that that rhythm, and
that's my rhythm that I usually go with.
And that's for me. That's fast. If I'm warming up, I have to think about going that fast. I really have to focus if I'm going that speed on keeping the energy downward focused.
It also helps if you are like leaning forward a little bit. If you're like leaning back, you know what I mean? It's a little bit harder to feel that diaphragm, but that's how I will do it. So
yeah, I definitely feel.
Step 2 for me is because you're trying to, for somebody who has no idea how to figure out where that is, you figured out where your voice is. Now you figured out where your diaphragm is. Yeah. And then it's just like, how can we put these two things together? Literally, like just like anything. You know what I mean? It's different for everybody.
Right.
So the next step that I've learned from actually singers is to get the straw.
Okay.
And now we're going to grab our handy dandy cup of water.
Yeah!
So, I mean, I believe it's different. You can correct me on this, but I feel like the better you are at this, maybe the more water you can have in it, or the further down you could put the straw into the cup.
It changes the amount of reverse pressure, essentially.
Yeah, the goal of this exercise is to do how you do that while you're doing that. And go back down. You're doing it through the straw, so you can even do it without the cup. First, just... And at the beginning, it's considerably easier.
Sure.
Because you're not putting it, you're just letting out air, you know what I mean? But then where you take it to the next level is where you stick it in the cup, and you put it a certain amount of, I would say, like, if you're a noob, the higher to the surface of the water, the better
The least
for you.
resistance for you.
Exactly, because the problem, what you're doing is now you're breathing through the straw, and you'll notice that as you go to the higher notes, your body will instinctively push harder because that's what your body wants to do. But you don't necessarily want to do that because if you're doing like crazy high notes, you're going to kill yourself. You're going to be totally out of breath. You're going to be exhausted. And if you got a long set, you don't necessarily want to do that. You just want to find that nice medium. Yeah. So you'll put it, I'll put it like an inch in, and you're just going to... And the goal is to make sure that the water does not shoot out of the cup.
So you're using too much pressure if you start to overflow.
Exactly. If you use too much pressure, it will overflow out the top. And if you don't use enough, the water isn't going to bubble at all.
Do you think about the posture? Like, because I'm intuitively kind of...
Right.
I mean, you want to be...
I think the best posture that you could have, is you want to like almost be sitting up straight, like leaning forward almost. If I do vocals in the car and you sit back, I just start to feel a little exhausted. So I've noticed that it's the same thing. You just want to be more engaged. Like you're in a... You could feel your diaphragm better if you're more sitting up straight and like leaning forward kind of thing. And the lower the straw goes into the thing, the more pressure you're gonna get against you. At the same time, if you put in too much, when it's really deep, you're gonna blow all the water out of the freaking cup.
Sure.
So this is a thing where it's all up to you. You just find that nice medium, like middle ground, blow into this thing, and go through your range and make it consistent. Focus on consistency and not just like how when you're trying to hit a note, you don't want it to be like, you just want to hit that note. Like you just want to find that nice, perfect middle ground and just stay there.
It's about balance, not achievement.
Exactly.
Right?
Balance. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, we're just warming up here. We're not trying to get anything out of it other than warming up.
Yes, and you just want to balance. And again, the deeper you go into the thing, the harder it is. The more shallow you are, the easier it is.
One of the things that I've had students actually do something similar before, one of the things to be aware of in this situation is that if you do blow into this and get a little water out, it can potentially land on a computer or an electronic and destroy it. So I tend to be careful and put a hand over, or if you put it inside of a water bottle that has that neck, it prevents you from destroying your electronics.
Just make sure that you're paying attention when it's in the water bottle.
Yes.
Because I know if it has a lid on it, you probably won't see. You're just thinking that you're doing it right. But again, you want to focus on the consistent bubbles. The bubbles are the most important thing. You want the bubbles not to be crazy typhoon out of the cup. You want a consistent, nice bubble.
Don't hold the straw real tight with your lips because you're working against yourself being able to warm up in a relaxed state.
But also at the same time, you want to make sure that when you don't want to be so relaxed that the air is going around the straw. Like,
yeah, sure.
Because now you're you're cheating. You're literally cheating.
Yeah.
You want all of your air to go through the straw.
It's not like
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of tension. Yeah. There's a certain amount of tension, but not too much tension.
Right.
Kind of along those same lines, all air going through the straw. I've seen some people do this before where the air is escaping through their nose.
Oh, sure.
That's also cheating. You don't even realize that you might be doing it.
And the way you know that it's happening is you plug your nose. If that happens and things change, then you know something's gone wrong.
Or you're not getting bubbles, right?
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, some people can do a hybrid and get some bubbles though, and they'll be deceived.
Avoid the surges or whatever it's called when the bubbles start just shooting out like crazy. Make it nice and consistent,
Right,
because when you do vocals, everything should be consistent.
Oh.
Otherwise, you might just push really hard on a high note and blow out your voice for the rest of the day. And now you're like, wow, that was really cool. It sounded insane, but now I might have a little bit more trouble with the rest of the set
Sure.
or the week or literally anything.
Sure.
So it's nice to find that medium, like how you were, I think at one point we were talking about finding a place to balance yourself when you're in the middle of the set. Unfortunately, when you're doing hardcore vocals, the adrenaline hits and sometimes you can't tell when you're taking damage because you're just going with it. So it's good to practice this beforehand so you could find how to not, you want to just instinctively know. Rather than trying to fix yourself halfway in, just like instinctively know before you go in that you want to find your medium ground.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. Water.
Cheers. Water.
Drink
Makes
your
your
water.
voice good.
I'm going to use the straw.
Are we drinking or are we bubbling?
I was drinking.
I'll drink a little.
Also, water is important. Drink water. Stay hydrated. If you have, what is it? It's something like, first of all, water doesn't even go to your vocal cords. It doesn't. There's a common misconception because your what is it, the epiglottis or whatever, the thing they use to swallow and to breathe, it will cover your vocal cords. So when you drink like water, your water's not going to touch your vocal cords otherwise you're going to cough like crazy, because that means it's going into your lungs, which is like not what you want. But having a lot of good hydration is just good for your body, and then that will help heal your body faster if you start to go through any types of anything.
But if you drink all the water that's in this, then you can't do the drill right. So you have to have separate.
So don't do that first and then drink the water. Yes. Dun, dun, dun.
So we've warmed up the awareness of our support. We have done some mild vocalizations with lip trills and stuff like that. We've done things that are not abrasive at all. And now we get to start warming up the more abrasive aspects of what you do day in and day out with your voice.
Normally, you do a sigh, you just... But as you add a little bit more constriction in your throat, you can... And then you push a little bit more from the diaphragm. You can almost... This is almost like we're not just punching straight into a scream. We're going gently into a scream.
So you actually do this for your warm-ups. You start with unconstricted sighs and make them more gradually constricted?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
And then
so
eventually
cool.
I will just practice the very, like a constricted sigh. It ends up sounding like kind of like a bad scream, but that's fine because you're just warming up. You don't want to just jump straight into it. So it could go from like...
And so when I hear you do it, it goes from like 0 to 100 really, really fast. But when I start internalizing that, I'm engaging my primary chords without a lot of that false chord grunty sound, like right, primary chords, and then a little bit more, but I still have that primary chord, that phonation going on. And then as I add constriction, I notice that the primary chords take a back seat, and you get more of what I hear you do. But you have such a highly developed sense of the false chord engagement that it sounds so much more sudden. Like you know how to warm up your false chords and like go there. Whereas when I try it, I have to really feel that. And and really get the primary chords engaged, but also feel out the false chords starting to get engaged. Does that make sense?
It definitely does, because if for somebody who doesn't know how to engage your false chords, this is going to be a little tricky in the beginning. But this is like the most basic thing. So like, because once you figure this out, it becomes easier to do a lot of other things when it comes to screaming.
Yeah.
Because learning how to activate those false chords is what makes the bass behind every guttural, mid-scream, and just like figuring out how to figure out the rumble that's going on here.
The rumble.
The
I like
rumble. That's what you're feeling. And that's how when I was first trying to figure out how to like scream, it's all a big rumble because it's just vibrating over here and you're just pushing from here. And as you're
moderating that airflow.
Yes. Yeah. And as you're giving into that sigh, you could push it harder, and you could exert more and constrict more, and you could start to realize that it's starting to form into what would normally be a scream.
The most basic sort of relaxed meditative sigh, all the way to the point where you start to add the rumble. Take us from that range real quick, just so we can see you do that as you would warm up.
Okay, let's go. I'm gonna go for it. Here we are.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you guys right now, just completely random. This will also help you as you're figuring out how to scream. When you do vocals of any sort, the sound will come out of in front of you. And that is not very helpful when you want to figure out what you're doing inside, which is why a lot of people will scream in the shower or scream in the car, because the acoustics allow your voice to bounce back at, so you can hear the frequencies that you're really trying to focus on. And that's why people are like, oh, I sound so much better in the car, I sound so much better in the shower. You just sound like exactly what you always sounded like. You just don't realize what you sound like. So what I like to do is to get my hands, and you could either do with two hands. I don't plug my ears, but I almost do like a little cup. So like this, you just kind of like fold it over, and you'll notice that as you're talking, your voice is wrapping around.
Yes, I hear
and it goes into
me
your
better
ear.
now.
And it sounds, you don't have to do it with both hands. You can do it with one hand. You can do whatever you want. The more, if you have two hands, you'll hear your voice better than you would without, with just one hand. But again,
fox ears. Your little fox ears.
that's great. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. As you're going into this sigh, you could start to just.
We're doing this, it brings up that presence, that like 4K, really bitey sound.
A higher end frequency that you will never hear in your voice unless it was compressed in a thing. Or
it sounds more like it's recorded just by me doing this. Hey! It almost hurts my ears when I start to do louder vocals.
Exactly. Which is why maybe one ear, if you just, like, whatever, you know what I mean? You could maybe make it so less sound goes in, but it's incredibly helpful.
I love the way it sounds. I love it.
Yeah.
Feel any kind of scratchiness, take a break or just stop and do it the next day.
I think it's wonderful that our bodies let us know so quickly if we're being attentive when we're doing something wrong. Way, if you're doing something, if it doesn't fit, that we're going to share with you through the. Now take us into this next step. We've engaged the false chords. What's
let's say you are a beginner and you've gotten to this point. You have figured out how to do a sigh. You have figured out, maybe it took like a week or two, but now you can figure out how to do a grunt sigh scream. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, for me, what helps me like really hone in on the muscles that I'm using internally, like my false chords, there's a thing that I've done for years and years and years and years, and it's called tube and throat singing. And there's a bunch of different types. I think there's about 3 different types. The one that I usually use, I believe, is called kagara, and it is the type where it focuses on the same muscles that you use when you scream, or when you do a false chord scream specifically, which is that rumbly sound that you're feeling in your throat. And it's basically, this is what it sounds like. And it takes a little while to figure out. And again, just like I was saying before, it was a little scratchy when I first trying to figure it out, but then your brain will figure it out on its own. Just keep practicing it every so often. To give you an example, my nephew does not do vocals at all. He does not do any vocals. He's an IT guy. That's what he does. But he would see me do Tuvan throat singing throughout the entire house all the time. And he figured it out just from hearing me.
Just from hearing you do it.
Just from listening to me do it. Because that's the best thing that you could do. If you want to learn how to do something, you want to do it. You almost want to harmonize with the other person that's trying to do it.
And to clarify, you are using this for your warm-up.
Yes.
It's a dual-purpose thing. And we'll get more into developing the technique of Tuvan throat singing later as part of the sounds that we'll make.
I lose it
but
every time.
Right now, you're using it to come to terms with where your voice is so that you can do other things.
Yes.
Right?
Because once you already got the sigh down, you want to, now you just want to, you're like, all right, I got that. Now I want to focus on the next thing. How can I start working on my scream and make it more, so you're more in control of, like how we're talking about the false chords and how they come in better than over the true folds. So that I have, like, for instance, I have a lot more control over it than other people. This exercise helps you get more control.
So you get okay.
And
so give us some sounds.
The guy from South Park, I think his name is Ned, smokes a lot of cigarettes. He is the whole... That's how he talks the entire time throughout the entire show. He is a perfect example of Tuvan throat singing. I don't know if the guy actually does that, but it's all about the... and again, you gotta use the... Don't forget at any point to stop using the diaphragm and the pushing from the butt or whatever, because that's when you'll start pushing from here, and you don't want to push from here. You want to push from here every time you do vocals. And depending on how you move your mouth, you can literally hear how the sound will change. And it's the same thing with when you're going into doing any kind of scream, because as you move your mouth, the sound will change automatically. You're just focusing on that vibrating thing that's going on, because when you do screams...
One of the reasons this is giving Will so much more control over his false folds is because this is making a certain periodic oscillation in the false folds happening. So it's making the false folds vibrate at a very particular rate. Specifically, they vibrate twice as slow as the true folds are vibrating.
That's why you hear
the octave that goes down. Now, when he does, we know this from watching his throat in a camera. We know that when he's doing his bass scream, your false fold scream, there's a twist, and essentially the vibration is not periodic because there's a cantering and like a different motion, and one fold comes out more than the other in your voice. So that vibration of your false folds is very different. And so I love hearing that you're actually warming up how your false folds are vibrating in different ways.
Yeah, that's cool.
So can you do that sound with just clean first and then add the false folds on top so we can hear the transition?
Yeah. So it would be like...
Where do you... So does it feel like you engage extra here when that constriction comes in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
cool.
Definitely. And if when you start to feel that and really get to Tuvan throat singing, you'll notice that same like becomes, when you actually figure out like a scream, they are almost like hand in hand. They're almost the same exact thing. You are using so similar muscles, if not the same exact muscles.
Yeah.
And to you, in your mind, you will register it as the same exact thing.
And what about your support system? Does it engage more when you engage that constriction as well, or is it the same?
I would say because you're adding more constriction, you would probably need to push a little bit harder from here. Just like how when you're going into a sigh, you need to push, you need to engage the diaphragm more because you're constricting, and it's this. I imagine it to be the same exact thing.
Yeah,
so
very cool.
Make sure, like I said, when you're doing any type of anything, you really need to focus from here, because if you just like sit back and you just don't, like you might do it just fine, but you could also just hurt your voice, and at the end of the day, you just want to have good posture and good vocal posture if you're trying to figure it out.
Well, and it's all about, as I'm seeing you do it and go between the different sorts of sounds and placements, it's all about placement. And if you can use this as part of your warm-up, I think it's just fascinating that this isn't just a sound that you make. This is part of your warm-up, because you're awakening the sensations you need to do more, right? And this is the next stage. In the next video, we go to the final stage of your warm-up, which is getting more abrasive, using more air, experimenting with slightly different placements, onsets, stuff like that.
Yep.
But spend some time with this. This is not going to be instant. Be patient with it. It can take months. It can take a long time to really feel out these balances. And, you know, as you've seen me do a little bit of what he's doing, I sound and feel at this point very differently because I have not developed the muscle memory like you have, and that's to be expected. It will be the same for you. So be patient with this. Make sure that you stick around to the end of this series so that you can see Will apply this warm-up in real time. For now, we'll see you in the next video.
Really focusing on essentially bringing so much plasticity.
Your warm earned over of a warm-up, and we best not forget that, especially in this stage.
Absolutely.
If things don't sound the way you want them to sound yet, that's fine. Overtrain.
You may not have been aware of inside of you, because that's the hardest part. Once you figure out, oh wow, I didn't even know that muscle was there. You know, a lot of people don't know how to tube and throat sing, like a lot of people, and that's totally fine. It's not nobody talks like that.
The people going through this warm up, and I would say myself included, I have not in any way come close to perfecting or making that something that's very comfortable. What if I can't do some of these things that I'm trying to do for warming up? Do you just skip it and you move on to something else, or is tube and throat singing a prerequisite to doing this stage of your warm up?
I think that you can skip it if you really want to. I think as a screamer, or as a vocalist who yells at people, it's just important to have it, because you really don't realize how hand in hand these two things go.
Okay.
Yes, you can skip it. Keep practicing that so that the next time, hopefully, you'll be a little bit better, because as you do these exercises more, you will get better, whether you're aware of it or not, and it's just going to happen, and you're going to find out the equilibrium, the seesaw effect of muscle here. Wow, I got this here. If I push too hard here and don't use enough of this, it's not going to be a scream.
Here, are you talking about engaging? Are you pushing air up, or are you pushing down to engage more muscles?
I would say pushing downwards, like you want to engage. I say push because when somebody described this to me once upon a time, they said it's almost like you're pushing the air down or something like that.
And
that's the hoo-ha or whatever.
Perfect description, because what's actually happening is the muscles are pushing the air back. They're trying not to let the air out as fast, because if it just goes whoosh, then it blows things apart a lot of times, and that's what you're talking about, especially with the water and the straw and that blowing apart. So
you can get the grunt. So now we can try and put them together. You know, you can tube and throat sing into the grunt, and then you could start to form that grunt into a scream. And it's just all about just engaging more and feeling your body and finding that, again, the sweet spot where you're not pushing too much or engaging too much here. Nothing's coming out here. There's a whole seesaw effect. That's all what comes down to you practicing. Because if you don't practice, you'll never figure it out. Don't expect to get it overnight. You're not going to. And find your sweet spot. It's the same thing with pushing harder, like we were talking about. You don't want to push too hard and then blow your voice out. Everyone has a sweet spot. So find your sweet spot. And while you're doing these exercises, so I'll do a tube and throat singing thing into a grunt. So I'll be like a... And the only thing that I'm changing is I am engaging this even more. You're pushing more into it, which is causing
more constriction
to vibrate faster, which creates this scream.
So what I also hear is the apparent disengagement of the pitch, right? It goes from the primary
to vibrate faster, which creates this scream.
So what I also hear is the apparent disengagement of the pitch.
You're pushing more.
Hello.
Everyone has a sweet spot. So find your sweet spot. And while you're doing these exercises, so I'll do a Tuvan throat singing thing into a grunt. So I'll be like a... And the only thing that I'm changing is I am engaging this even more. You're pushing more into it, which is causing your a Tuvan throat singing thing into a grunt. So I'll be like a... And the only thing that I'm changing is I am engaging this even more. You're pushing more into it, which is causing more
constriction
to vibrate faster, which creates this scream.
So what I also hear is the apparent disengagement of the pitch, right? It goes from, so the primary chords are taking up now a backseat. The closure is not happening as much or at all in some cases.
There's not a lot of pitch. It's more of a sound than a pitch.
And so by engaging more here and increasing that pressure, your false chords are taking on more and more heavy lifting. And that is what is simultaneously creating a very rich and different tone and preserving your primary chords because they're not doing the work.
Yes.
This has to be warmed up.
This is why it's a warm-up, exactly. Because you go step by step. You can see this warms up this, then you warm up this, then you
combine them.
You combine them, and it creates literally like what you're describing. Like you're now you've realized how to do this without engaging so much of your voice and just making it into more of a sound, and you're just hearing the vibrating of those muscles inside.
I know from singing inside your throat that we start to actually see even more engagement. The false folds were vibrating at a different rate with the Tuvan throat singing, and then we're getting into more constriction up there as hopefully the true folds release. There's some other structures that start to get going. It'd be really fun to dive into that a lot further.
You're not really trying to do a crazy scream. You're just doing a very basic scream. And by doing very basic screams, you don't think about it as like this is going to be the most amazing scream in the world, because that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to get it nice and warmed up. This way, when you do those, when you're ready to do a fully engage everything, it's ready to go.
Is this where your warm-up ends then?
This is usually where it ends. Yeah, you do it for a little bit. You make sure that, again, don't over warm up.
Yeah, exactly.
I had a guy in my band who would over warm up all the time, but he's better now.
So take us through this arc. Take us through this arc of starting with clean, then to Tuvan throat singing, then to that disengaged hyper false chord engagement that you're talking about. Take us through that a couple times as you would warm up, and give us a little snippet of how that looks isolated, and then of course you'll get to see more at the end of this series as he incorporates it into the whole warm-up. What I hear you doing is borrowing from the Tuvan throat singing less and less.
We want less pitch, all sound, because when you're doing these, unless you're doing a pitch scream, which is like
it's a different
considerably more advanced.
Yes.
This false chords is just you're making a sound.
One of the things I love so much about this warm-up and sort of capping it in this way is that Will's essentially warming up how his false chords are vibrating. He's taking it at different rates. That's extraordinary. I actually haven't heard of other harsh vocalists really focusing on essentially bringing so much plasticity to the false chords, which they don't have a lot of plasticity in the first place. That's amazing. So, Will, I think that this has got to be one of the best possible ways I've ever heard of to warm up your false chords.
I think it's the only way as far as I'm concerned. I mean, you can do it. I'm sure there's other ways that people do, but for me, this is how I do it every single time. And I have survived on tour, so it's a good sign. Things are working out.
Yeah. If you're talking about credibility, you want to learn from someone who has done it year in, year out, and been able to maintain a high level of performance. No better place to learn. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for enlightening both of us.
Of course.
Hopefully you guys are enjoying this process so far. In the next video, you're going to see Will go from stage 1 all the way from the very beginning of his warm-ups, and you're going to see him warm up in real time. Follow along as best you can. You probably won't get through it with him the first time or the 50th time, but start making this, just like he was saying earlier about how simply by little bits along this is where you play.
Want after that.
Your opportunity to see in real time what Will does for his warm-up, and we'll do a little recap at the end. It's so free. He's not trying to blend his resonances or anything. He's just letting it happen.
Remember, being very aware to use your diaphragm.
He's pushing his full voice up a little higher with that one.
Uh-huh.
Do that for a couple minutes just to get nice vocal cords nice and warmed up. Next, we're going 30 seconds. Nice and slow. Not too fast, not too slow. We'll do that. Set a timer for 30 seconds. And here we go.
The rhythmic consistency is quite...
It's actually kind of compelling.
Yeah.
That is a workout.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Take a break for a second.
Huh.
Do a little belly stretch if you have to.
Why did you decide to take a break?
You're engaging your diaphragm a lot because by pushing the air out, as if you're spitting a spitball across the room, it's filling up and shooting out. It's just like a little bag of air going on, like in my tummy, and that's pretty much what's going on. You're using those muscles in your tummy to just push the air right back out of you. So when you do it for about, depending on if you do it really fast or if you do it, not as fast, you're still working it out, and sometimes you just need like 10 second, 15 seconds, almost like how you're doing reps in a gym. It's good to just do a little rep and then maybe take it one weight, further, which would be for me, would be to just do it a little bit faster.
So pacing. You're
Yes.
trying to pace yourself, not tire yourself out. That's why you took the break.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because these are warm-ups.
Right.
So
right, great.
if you overwork this out, you might be a little bit more tired when you're on stage, which is bad because that's where all your energy comes from. We'll do another 30 seconds. Set a timer for 30 seconds. And we'll go a little faster on this one.
Look at the way his lips are moving away from the straw each time.
Right? Taking in the air very freely.
Yeah. And it's coming in through his mouth, not through his nose.
Uh-huh.
It's also warming the lips up.
Sure.
All right. So now we're nice and warmed up. We're going to go straight to the next straw technique. This is where we do the similar to the lip rolls, but through a straw, because there's no lip roll now. Now you're just kind of doing it through the straw. So. Again, using your diaphragm. Oh yeah, get that mucus out. That's what I'm talking about.
This is why we do this.
Right.
Doing this also helps get any mucus. If you got any mucus going on in there, you will hear it. Then you clear it out. Good to go.
It's much cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as you want to think that you could just do this, I mean, forever. First of all, you can. People do. But me, I like to just do it a couple times because you're realistically going to go straight into this where you do the same exact thing, but with a little bit more control.
Don't get water all over a mic if you're using a mic along with Will.
You can tell he's being careful.
Again, focusing on your diaphragm because you are pushing everything from the diaphragm. Couple more times.
I just love how many SOVT exercises are in his warm-up.
Find that nice little equal ground. So it's different for everybody. If you can find it real quick, fantastic. Do it 5 more times. If you can't, do it until you find it.
That's such sweet phonation at the
Or if you
top.
can find it immediately
So
and
clean.
you're super talented and the most amazing vocalist in the whole world, just put the straw a little bit further in there. You know what I'm saying? Because that will make it considerably harder.
I don't have much water left.
More
Right.
sensitive with the pressure. If you put in too much, it will explode. So don't do that. Anyway, we'll do it a couple more times over here.
You have different sized straws for different amounts of intensity that you want to.
Yes.
Getting that engine going in a nice, consistent motion. So this is a very important one to learn. And to do more, if you need to do it more, then do it more. But it's very important, so. Not gonna lie, I nailed that one. All right, on to the next one then. Because you got water already there, drink it. Hydration. Yeah, they don't say that in the warm-ups, but now you know this is the secret.
Drink the water you just blew into.
Yes, it was just there.
Right.
Maybe a little saliva.
All right, what do we got
It's
next?
your own saliva.
We got
You'll be fine.
size. Ooh, yes.
It goes so quickly into that.
It does definitely build intensity.
There's some pitch.
And you can hear how it starts to turn more into a scream. The more, obviously, I'm not really shaping my mouth. I'm just kind of like, letting the air out. So it kind of sounds a little, but that's what the next step is for. So we got some. Oh, and we're going to go one ear so I can hear myself real good. you can hear the progression between the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. So already sounding more like a scream immediately, but we're not going to jump right into that. We're going to go to my favorite one, Tuvan throat singing. Let's go. We're going to drink more water because water is good. Not too much, obviously. If you drink too much water, you overhydrate, and then you got a lot of mucus. And too much mucus will hold you back. Just a little bit to wet the palate. Oh, right. Tuvan throat singing. And you can see how I move my mouth changes it. So, now we're going to go from Tuvan throat singing into a scream.
This is so cool.
And so if you remember the tech, the Psy before, it was like a... So now we're going to go... And as you can hear, we're losing that and just more focusing on the rumble of the So
What?
And then what I like to do is some really crappy screams just to get them nice and warmed up. So you could just do like a
bonus.
Warming up
And
the
the
mouth
idea
a bit.
here is to just kind of get that sound, but now add it to a more of a voice kind of thing. So it doesn't have to be a crazy screaming. It's just a...
Just go monster for a little.
We only do this maximum, from what you've heard so far, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. The more you do it, the more it will actually wear on your real screaming technique, whatever your growl is. So the point is to focus more on the first couple techniques that we were going through, which is the lip rolls and the straw, and then making sure that's really tight, because this is just warming up the vocals. As soon as, if you do it too much, you will over warm up. You will not have as much longevity as you might want when you're on stage. So this maybe 10 minutes. Then if you want, you could just practice your screams just to, once you really are warmed up and you're ready to go, and go through your whole range, make sure it's ready, and then that's it. That's pretty much the whole thing. Because, again, you don't want to go too much. You go too much, kill yourself later. So take care of your voice. This is the last of it. I'll go through my whole range real quick.
I really like that essentially he's saying that the SOVTs add to your bank, whereas the screams start to take away.
Yeah, that's really important to keep in mind. Already budgeting.
Yep.
Got to budget from beginning to the end. And budgeting in the beginning is very important, because you don't want to over budget, go over your budget, and then do worse for yourself later. So
then you're in
as
debt.
you can see, that was about 10 minutes, and now we'll just go straight to the screams. Yeah. I'm going to take my headphones out for this one.
Boom.
So I can really hear myself.
Do it.
Hey, hey, hey. Hey, hey, hey. And that's pretty much it. We go through the top, from the bottom, just like how we did the lip rolls. Do the same thing, if you can, in your own range. And, yeah. Those are all my warm-ups, but don't forget the most important one when you're all done getting off the stage. It's all about not the vocal fry scream, but the vocal fry cool down, which I'm going to show you right now as well. Nice and quiet now. And I would say you could probably do it for somewhere between, as long as it takes for your tea to warm up, which could be 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, however fast your tea thing is. But do the wow.
I have seen The Grudge.
Whoa. And of course the wow. Which one is more like a wow, one is more like a whoa, and one's more like a wow.
Wow.
Because the wah, that brings your, I think it's a little bit more on the upper part of your voice, because you have to.
Yeah, you're raising the tongue.
You are raising something, and when you do that, your voice, your face naturally has to do like a it goes up.
Sure.
The ridge of your tongue goes up, and then the face tends to brighten to accommodate that too.
Those are all of my warm-ups, followed by my cool-downs, minus the very important tea that you should be drinking as soon as you get off the stage. But if you don't have it as soon as you get off the stage, you make sure you do your woo-wows and wows, because you got 4 or 5 minutes, and that's the perfect time to get it done. Take care of your voice. And that's all I got. Will Ramos out.
Thanks.
Shut the fuck! Just
Oh my god.
Wow. Wow.
That's such sweet phonation.
How are you keeping your voice sane and in shape and conditioned to do what you want to do with it when you want to do it?
When I get off the stage, first thing I do, make tea.
Okay.
Yeah! Oh, I don't have any tea.
Tea time! Oh, you can't skip tea time.
I have more water.
You can't skip tea time. So you get a nice little tea. Preferably uncaffeinated. It'd be better if you didn't. You know, you can get throat coat is fantastic. My favorite tea is any kind of turmeric, rooibos tea. Because turmeric is very good for inflammation. So let's say hypothetically you hurt your voice for some reason, even just a little bit, it's better. It'll be better than something that is like a black tea, for instance.
Yeah, and no matter, it's going to happen.
Which is why we're
Yes.
talking about our mind's connection to your voice.
Totally just hanging out with everybody. Just, you know, it was totally fine. And Austin coming to me, he's like, dude, nobody does that. He was like, just totally just hanging out with everybody. Just.
So keep that in mind as Will's going through what he does.
When I first joined Lorna, I remember getting off stage and just totally just hanging out with everybody. Just, you know, it was totally fine. And Austin coming to me, he's like, dude, nobody does that. he's like, when people, everybody else that's ever been in this band, when they get off the stage, they don't talk at all.
Yeah.
And obviously, this is where it gets to like, vocal rest is exactly what you're saying. You will have a bigger budget depending on how much you practice. But vocal rest is incredibly important. No matter who you are, if you're me, I need vocal rest. I will be the first person asleep. Oh, actually, let's rewind it for a second. So I'll have my tea, and I will usually have like a cough drop. There's specific vocal cough drops that you can have that have like black licorice, which is very good, I believe, for the voice. If I'm remembering, I don't know. I read that somewhere online. Anyway, it's fantastic. There's a couple different companies that make them, but if you don't have them, it's literally the same exact thing if you just went and got lemon honey cough drops. And it's just better because when you get off the stage, maybe you just wanted something to soothe you a little bit. So you could have a cough drop and drink some tea at the same time. And it will keep you, like, the menthol-y mintiness will make you feel relieved for a period of time. And you drink your tea. The tea will help soothe your voice even more. And then don't go to the bar. The bar is and not even just the bar. Let's say you're the first band that you went on. You're on a long tour. You're the first band that went on. You just finished playing. Now you go out into the crowd. Everybody wants to talk to you.
The talking's what's going to kill you.
Don't.
Yeah.
Literally, like, it's not even just the talking. It's more competing against whatever you're hearing, because you will instinctually yell. You might be a little tired, so you won't activate your diaphragm. Now you're putting a lot of strain on your vocal cords, which is, like, not what you want. And you may have a perfect set. So you killed it. You got the stage. You felt amazing. Bim, bam, boom. Now you went into the crowd. You spoke to everybody for an hour. You tried yelling over the music or even just talking a little bit louder. And now the next day, your voice hurts. And you're like, I don't understand what happened. My voice felt so good when I got off the stage. What was that? A lot of it is trying to talk over. If there's music playing, if you go to a bar, there's always loud people. Everyone's trying to yell at you to talk to you about, or you're trying to yell to talk to your friend. Anything. Like, these are the things that will serve two evils. I have no over the music. You are not going to have a very productive.
Join a band.
Don't drink. Cough. Coughing is not good for your voice.
Right.
And if you smoke, you will cough, or if maybe you won't cough, but you'll get to the end of whatever you're smoking, and then it will hurt. It will burn no matter what, because that's just how the nature of smoking. Smoking burns your vocal cords. It doesn't help them. They don't get stronger from smoking. It only hurts them.
It irritates them.
It irritates them. And if they're already irritated, the last thing you want to do is continue to irritate them.
Right.
So I don't smoke. I don't like to, like I said, I don't drink before I go on, because drinking will get you more, how we were talking about with the water thing.
Right.
You will naturally, if you're drunk, push harder through that water straw, whether you're aware of it or not.
Right.
And that will
that's good.
wear your voice out.
Yep.
You won't necessarily get through. First of all, you might be fine if you don't have a very hard song to do. It's just like a couple vocals, whatever. But if you're doing like songs like Lorna or very technical deathcore songs, you need as much breath as you can get. And the worst thing that you can do is overexert something, and then now you got to try and catch up. And you won't be able to catch up realistically unless you have another break. And in that time between the break and you trying to catch up, you're going to focus most of your effort here, and that's what's going to destroy your voice. Don't drink before you go on. Don't smoke after you get off. Don't. Even cigarettes, obviously, it's the same thing. Doesn't matter. You're a vocalist, and you are not a guitarist. You can't.
Right.
Your instrument is you, and as soon as you do things to upset your instrument, you can't just change your strings. Like, you don't have that option. Just because you want to be there, make sure everybody gets the same set. And
after the show at a bar, it's so very common. Your cords are inflamed, or your throat and other structures are inflamed. You're not thinking about the support. You've had a
fry.
Oh,
okay. It's like but there's different ones that I would do, which would be like, wow, 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 wow. And then I think there's the one that
It's so fun to watch you when you're doing this, because I think of what you're doing as mostly being lip shaped, but I can see your tattoo is moving so much.
That's awesome. There's something going on here. It's
so cool.
What I was told once upon a time from an opera singer, not you. I know.
You talk to other opera singers.
How could I do this? Anyway, this is actually the guy that got me into even doing vocals at all. Like,
that was a cool guy.
His name is also Will.
Okay.
Will Flame. Shout out to you, Will Flame. But I remember him telling me this at one point. He was like, listen, these are all good things to do, because when you're doing it, it's literally your voice is like, it's almost getting like a nice little massage.
Yeah.
And you want it, it's a nice massage for your voice. And that's why, depending on, regardless if you do vocal fry or if you do a false chord scream, having that wow, wow, wow is very good to just cool it down and bring it back to your normal voice.
You ever just have conversations like that after
No, you shouldn't do that. No, you definitely should not do that.
Wow.
That will overwork out. That would probably work you out more than you want to work out.
That'll make you go over budget.
Yes. Don't go over the budget. So maintain good budget.
But doing that as a cool down, that's a healthy thing to do?
Yeah, that is a healthy thing to do. There's sort of different ways you can approach that one, but and I want to be really clear here. We're talking about something that is considered vocal fry, or it's labeled as vocal fry, but it's very different from fry screams. It's completely different mechanisms.
Yes.
And this kind of sound actually moving in between clean singing and that sound like doing that can help your chords learn sort of where that edge of phonation is. And it can be sort of gentle and massaging, and it's not using a ton of air pressure as well. So there are definite benefits to this. I would not have an entire conversation, right? Because then you'd probably try to get louder with that instead of using it in a really therapeutic way.
I love that you intuitively went to that sort of vocal fry cool down, because that's something that doesn't require a lot of support, right? It's
very relaxed.
Yeah, you can kind of relax. Before, we were with the lip trills and stuff like that, we were working on relaxing into using our voice. Now you're making this gesture with your whole body of relaxing out of your voice, which I think that's super cool. Is that kind of the last thing you do to warm down?
100%. When I get off, that's the first thing I do while I'm waiting for my tea to warm up and my mints, and then again, it's all just vocal rest at that point.
That was some really awesome insights into your warm down and your vocal budgeting. Thank you so much for sharing that. I actually feel like it's not that dissimilar from classical singers, and it shows that you have so much respect for your instrument.
Yeah.
I'm trying out here, and I think, singing and screaming are two sides of the same coin.
Sure.
So if you can, even if you have even more singing, warm-ups or anything like that, it's never going to hurt. Just, this is what works for me. You can obviously add more to it. You can take away some, but everybody's different, and everybody's body shouldn't be expected to run the same way.
Well, and that is really, I think, the perfect way to close this series, in that you have learned what works for you by listening to your body, by being attentive to little micro changes that happen as you experiment with your voice, as you explore what the perceived limits are, and really treating your voice, like you just said, with respect, and doing that over a long period of time. You have grown into this routine, grown into this discipline of serving your voice as the instrument that you love and that loves you back. As you're going through this warm-ups course, and as you're following what Will does and trying to internalize some of the sounds, you will undoubtedly come to multiple points where you're like, oh, I'm not there, or I can't do this, or man, I wish I could go further with this particular area of what he's doing. The good news is you can. There's a lot more coming. Stay tuned. All of the stuff that we're doing here has been unpacked in a full-length, exploratory, full package. We're excited to share that with you. Come back for more.
See you soon.
Okay. I watched some How to Scream.
Hey everybody, back here once again. It's Mary Z for Voice Hacks. Today I am going to show you some basic tips on how to teach yourself to fry scream. Let's take doing anything. I had two fry. Vocal fry is actually its own definition. Own official definition, and vocal fry is this sound.
How do it?
It's like a gurgly, popcorny sound. It's also like an annoying way that some teenagers like to talk, like, oh my god. That is vocal fry. So that should not be confused with fry screaming. And fry is not a universal word for all distortion. So if we're doing raspy singing like a blues singer, or raspy shouting like a metal or post-hardcore singer or shouter or screamer, anything that has your voice in it, we would want to classify that as raspy voice or voice with distortion. Distortion is the name for distortion, not fry. So fry is the name for a very specific scream. Fry screaming is where our vocal folds actually come together like this. When we sing or speak, just to be clear, our vocal folds sit perpendicular to the windpipe right here behind the cartilage. They move like this. They sort of undulate and touch each other in waves as you speak or sing anything with pitch. What creates the distortion in raspy shouting, hey, or singing is shaking around the tissues in the soft palate and the sinuses at the same time as you use your regular voice. When we fry scream, we're not actually using our voice anymore. You're also free to Google. There are a lot of folks out there who've done uploads of their own video endoscopies of their vocal cords while fry screaming. Shake the tissues around in the soft palate and the sinuses at the same time as we're pushing air through our closed vocal folds. So our cords are not shouting, they're not slamming. It's honestly, when you can do it correctly, it is quite safe to do. However, the danger is if we don't know what we're doing and we do it incorrectly and we end up just shouting, it's not yelling, it's not using our voice. Shouting is slamming our cords together, which will create swelling and hoarseness, and we don't want to push anything from the throat. So if you're unclear about how to push screams with air, go ahead and check out my YouTube video on breathing exercises for screamers. That's going to get you kicked from
link
a
here,
video.
link there,
And then
have
drop
it
the
in
pitch
one
really, really low
video.
until you lose. Then you may need to get with a vocal coach or fry in it. But vocal in some whisper. Other two videos that precede this. And this one is about just actual singing, but adding some grit to it, or maybe kind of like yelling with grit. You can yell in the same placement as belting. And if you want to do some yelling, I recommend highly, you need to watch my videos, my belter series, because it's the same tone placement. And if you haven't watched my tone placement and breath support series, you need to do that, or you're not going to be able to nail any of these techniques safely. Breath. And we can go, hey, hey, just like we're belting. I'm imagining my sound, my laser beam of sound going forward, boring maybe through right here, like the laser's coming right out of here, or like a piece of floss between my two front teeth, or like a bore right into my hard palate on the roof of my mouth. Whatever I'm doing, let's try it on a neigh. I'm sending it forward over that joker line, always over the joker line and forward. So let's take a deep breath here and go, neigh! Good. Try that. Yell it. Neigh! And when you imagine it going over that joker line, we don't feel any slamming or pain here, especially if we've taken enough air. If you don't have enough air, your vocal cords will slam together. So that's the first key. So watch my belter series on how to make a good productive belting. Is like speaking. Hey, hi, how are you? Hey, it's very similar. So watch that video series so that you can learn how to make a productive, healthy, yelling power sound. Physically command anything to that I want to add some grit. As long as I imagine the static, you could think of it as white noise or static from an old TV, static from an old radio, something crackly. You want to add that kind of crackly static. Always really picture it going over the joker line, going forward into the same spot. Imagine that your grit comes from the.
It took me a very long time to get here.
You hear yourself right now? I've never done it that well before.
That is it.
You hear yourself right now? You hear yourself right now? I've never done it that well before.
That is it. I am so proud of you right now. This is incredible. We have spent the last 3 days in here.
Ventricular, vestibular, false folds, all the same thing.
This is the good stuff right here. This is, everybody wants to know, how do you do the goblins? This is how we get it, okay?
It looks like it's done some vibration against the arytenoid cartilages, which are down here. We can zoom in here, I think, and see. This is really cool.
There's an easier way to get to where I'm at. And that is how you do some highs. Time to call the next guest to the stage. Elizabeth, get over here. I'm calling you down to the stage. That nice plateau, rather this. Fantastic. I feel like you and I are harmonizing. That's fantastic. Yeah, that sounds awesome. A hilly surface rather than a hilly surface. Yeah, that sounds awesome. That's fantastic. I feel like you and I are harmonizing in a way. That's what I'm talking about. The better down to the state. That sounds awesome. I feel like you and I are harmonizing. I'm talking about the better they're having at the end of the day. You were in the right spot.
Requesting your vocal cord reaction analysis.
Hi everyone. Today we're going on an adventure. This is an adventure that you have planned. Of characteristic. Okay, I can see why you wanted me to watch this. Oh my god. Okay, what? That is insane. Like, I think if you gave me the audio of this, I would have assumed, okay, she's bowed out, there's another guy there, he's stepping in and he's doing the thing. Because that is like so low. That is so low for a female voice. I need to see it again. Let's watch that again. I've gotten the giggles out, I think, now. So I think I can now look at it again.
Whoa.
Okay. She does have that vocal quality in her scream that does give the impression that she's a male, which isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. It's just actually kind of amazing that she can. I'm trying to figure it out, and I appreciate where. Here it is, isn't it? It's all low. Went up high there. This part. I can't do it. It's very cool. Went up high there. This part. I can't do it. It's very cool. Okay, I think it's going to go into the middle again. So that second verse that she went into there was suddenly higher in her register. The timbre that she...
Where is
It took me a very long time to get here. I did the hurdles already.
I want to do those.
So now you have a roadmap, my set of experiences that will all help you, guide you down the path that you want to go.
Practice,
Wow. There we go. Give it a shot. Do you hear yourself right now?
I've never done it that well before.
That is it. I am so proud of you right now. This is incredible. We have spent the last 3 days in here.
Ventricular.
I need to eat lunch now. It's gonna be fun to look at the VOD later. I want to do this again someday because I have to practice. Okay, bye bye.